Okay, so this question is about crude oil and formulations. So, having a read of question 1A. Crude oil is a mixture of many different compounds. Give two reasons why crude oil is not a formulation. Okay, so first thing we've got to be thinking is what is this formulation here? So, a formulation is a mixture that is designed to do something useful. It is made by mixing different substances in carefully measured quantities. Okay, so why would crude oil not be a formulation? So, first, crude oil is just found from underground. Okay, so it hasn't been designed to do something useful. So, for our first point of why it's not a formulation, we would say crude oil is not a useful product. Okay. Okay, so what about our second reason? Well, as we said before, cr- formulations need to be carefully measured quantities, and crude oil we just find underground and we don't actually measure the quantity. So, our second reason would be crude oil is not mixed in carefully measured quantities, and these would be two reasons and would get you 2 marks in an exam. So, as long as you know the definition of a formulation, you will be able to answer this question. Now, part B, this is a very common question, and this is asking us to describe how crude oil is separated into fractions. Now, this question is all about how a fractionating column works and why crude oil is separated in it. So, first point that you always need to make sure you're getting down is that crude oil is heated into a vapor. Okay, it always needs to be evaporated, and we say it has been vaporized. So, something along the lines of crude oil is heated to a vapor, or crude oil is vaporized. Okay, it can't be a liquid, it can't be a solid, we need it as a gas. So, that would get you your first mark. Your second mark is talking about how the temperature of a fractionating column changes as you move up. To get the second mark, you would have to write something along the lines of the temperature of the fractionating column decreases from bottom to top. Okay, and that what that's saying is that the closer to the bottom of the fractionating column you are, the greater the temperature. And as it rises, because it's being heated at the bottom, the temperature is going to decrease as you move to the top. Okay, and that will get you your second mark. Now, remember what the question says. It says how crude oil is separated into fractions, and we haven't actually covered that part yet. So, the reason crude oil is separated into fractions is because the hydrocarbons within the crude oil condense at different heights in the column. Okay, so crude oil is made up of a variety of hydrocarbons, and each one will condense, so from a gas into a liquid, at different heights in the column. Now, why does this happen? Well, this happens because each hydrocarbon has a different boiling point. Okay, the longer the hydrocarbon chain, the greater its boiling point, and the smaller the hydrocarbon chain, the lower its boiling point. Remember, as the carbon length increases in the chain, there are more intermolecular forces and therefore a greater boiling point. However, for small carbon molecules, they will have fewer intermolecular forces and therefore a lower boiling point. Remember, boiling point is determined by the number of intermolecular forces. These intermolecular forces are always weak. The bigger the chain, the more forces, therefore, the greater the boiling point. The smaller the chain, the less intermolecular forces, and therefore, the lower the boiling point. So, to get your final mark for this question, you have to say because each hydrocarbon has a different boiling point. So, having a look at our 4 marks for this question, describe how crude oil is separated into fractions. Crude oil is heated to a vapor, is your first mark. Your second mark is for saying the temperature of the fractionating column decreases from bottom to top. Your third mark is for saying the hydrocarbons condense at different heights in the column. And your fourth mark is for saying because each hydrocarbon has a different boiling point. The final question is the fractions from crude oil contain alkanes. Explain why alkanes are cracked. Now, because this question is an explain question, we need to also say why. Okay, so alkanes are cracked to make smaller hydrocarbon molecules. Okay, if we're cracking something, we are making it smaller. So we get these long alkane chains and we make smaller hydrocarbon chain molecules. Okay, that would be your first mark. But at this point, we haven't explained, we haven't said why. Why do we break it down into smaller molecules? Well, the reason we break it down into smaller molecules is to make something that is more useful. Okay, so to get 2 marks for this question, we would say something along the lines of alkanes are cracked to make smaller hydrocarbon molecules, this being your first mark here, that are more useful, this being your second mark. Okay, if you just wrote this, you would be describing, but because you have given a reason here, you are now explaining, and that is how you're going to get maximum marks in this question.